Hello and welcome to this lesson for higher biology, which is going to be focusing on the different types of stem cells that we have and the potential uses we have of those different stem cell types. So previously we've looked at the need for cellular differentiation and what we mean by a stem cell. Today we're going to look at the types of stem cell, their uses and their potential. And in order to be able to do that, we'll be looking for you to list some properties of embryonic stem cells, list some properties of tissue stem cells, describe the present therapeutic uses of stem cells, and give areas of research in which stem cells can be useful. So you'll be aware from the last lesson that there are main types of stem cells. We have embryonic stem cells and adult stem cells, which are also known as tissue stem cells. So stem cells are unspecialised cells that can continue to divide and differentiate into the specialised cells of one or more types. During embryological development, the unspecialised cells of the early embryo will differentiate into cells with specialised functions. Tissue or adult stem cells will replenish these differentiated cells that need to be replaced and give rise to a more limited range of cell types. The development of tissue or adult stem cells in the bone marrow of red blood cells, for example, will turn into red blood cells, platelets, and the various forms of phagocytes or lymphocytes. When we consider embryonic stem cells, we know that cells in the very early embryo can differentiate into all the cell types that make up the organism, and therefore they are referred to as being pluripotent. All the genes in embryonic stem cells can be still switched on, so these cells can differentiate into any type of cell. With tissue or adult stem cells, on the other hand, they are involved in the growth, repair and renewal of the cells that are found in that tissue. Tissue stem cells are referred to as multipotent as they can differentiate into all the types of cells found in a particular cell type. As we've seen, red blood stem cells, located in the bone marrow can give rise to all our types of blood cell. So the therapeutic uses of stem cells involve the repair of damaged or diseased organs or tissues. That could use either embryonic stem cells, which can self-renew under the right conditions in the lab, like these ones which are used for cornea repair. We could also have tissue stem cells being used, either as blood stem cells, which would work as a bone marrow transplant, for example. You're able to take the stem cells out of the individual's blood and grow the correct types of cells that you're going to need. You may also use stem cells in order to carry out skin grafts and repairing damaged skin, and this is usually not necessarily taken as a donor item. This is often the individual's skin cells themselves that are used in this case. On the other hand, we also have the research value of stem cells. So this is where we're looking at using stem cells in order to investigate the possible cures that we have for some diseases. Essentially, these stem cells are being used as model cells. So we're taking some pluripotent stem cells, culturing them, which just means growing them, and we're using those specific types of tissues or cells in order to figure out what it is that causes disease, what might treat diseases. We also use those cells to allow us to look at cell differentiation, for example, or cell growth, and we can also use them to look at the impact of different toxins. So environmental toxins, for example, could be tested on these cells rather than on individual people. Obviously, that makes it much safer. There's no risk to individuals. We're just looking at the cells and seeing how the cells respond. We also have an advantage in using these stem cells in that we can use human ones, and that gives us the opportunity, rather than using model organisms such as mice or rabbits, we can actually really see how a drug may affect or interact with different cells of different tissues, and that gives us a clearer idea of how it might work as a potential treatment. Now, obviously, there are particular ethical concerns around using stem cells. One of the main considerations that we have to give with the use of stem cells is that until recently, embryonic stem cells have been considered the most useful for research. As was said, those are the ones that can differentiate into any type of cell, and given the right conditions in the lab, we can use those to create any tissue that we might want to research. However, recently we have uncovered the fact that adult or tissue stem cells can in fact be induced into becoming more similar to embryonic stem cells, so they'll react in a more similar way. That means we maybe don't have to use embryonic stem cells quite so much in the future. It's something that's still being investigated at the moment. And we have to consider really the idea of some people who may not believe in the use of embryonic cells in this way. A lot of people believe, for example, that the embryo is a potential future life, and in harvesting those stem cells from the embryo, that involves the destruction of the embryo. So those are some considerations we have to be thinking about as we move forward with stem cell research. So from that, you should be able to give some of the properties of embryonic stem cells, compare those with the properties of tissue stem cells, describe how we use stem cells currently in therapeutic uses, and give some of the areas of research in which stem cells could potentially be useful.